My mic sounds nice.
Check one.
My mic sounds nice.
Check two.
That's right.
Okay. What is going on, everybody? This is Dr. Damon Silas, and I am your host of From Morning to Action, Powerfully Working Through Loss. And I am so excited to have our guest here today. Today we have the lovely and amazing Dr. Adrienne Leca.
Hello. Hello, good people. So I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I am excited and thankful for you and grateful for you in my life. And, you know, like I said, Dr. Adrienne Leca is also a clinical psychologist. Her and I went to grad school together at GW in D.C. many years ago. Right. And we've actually followed very similar paths in our work as well. So we both have worked in the school systems.
That's right.
And we both worked with military.
That's right. And we both actually started at Howard University. My master's, your undergrad.
That's right. And with that being said, Dr. Leca, do me a favor and tell me a little bit about, and tell the people a little bit about yourself, just a brief background, anything that I may have missed, and then talk about the loss that you want to discuss on this podcast.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to do so, because it's very timely for me. Like you said, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm originally from the Midwest. Washington has been my home for the last 18, almost 20 years. And I'm so very glad to be back here after living in Korea and Missouri. I'm back here in the area. And actually yesterday marked the last day for me of trauma, the era of trauma. And so this is very timely that we're having the podcast.
Well, tell me, when you say it was the last day of your trauma, what do you mean by that?
So I mean that 2018 was a very challenging time for me. And I set the boundary. It's not coming into 2019. That's it. It's the end of 2018. So December 31st was the last day. I'm not going backward. That's it. It happened. And it was transformative in many ways for me. But that was the last day. I no longer wear that.
So you made a declaration that moving forward, that what happened to you in 2018 and even before that will no longer impact you the same way that it did before.
Absolutely not. It will not affect me the same way. But I'm different.
How?
Well, so you asked me to tell you about myself. I lived here, went to grad school with you, moved away, and when I moved away, I believe I had a spiritual rebirth. You know, I'm a person of faith. Mm-hmm. And I had been going to church. But when I moved away, I believe my relationship with the Lord changed. And I began to live my life based on faith as opposed to control and fear. And I think that those things have transformed my perspective about trauma. So my declaration in my life has changed in that way, because I don't see that thing as such a devastating thing that happened to me, those things, as I would have before. So that's how it's changed me.
So, and I love hearing that, and it's so important, I think, you know, for you and your development. And so I want to ask you a couple things. A, what those things are, and then B, what you would say to somebody who doesn't necessarily have faith, but they do have trauma.
Yes. Well, you know, in my practice, I say, and then also in my work with others, but in my practice, I say, you know, people, you know, I have firm boundaries in terms of my spirituality and my professional work. But I do say to people that people who have faith are more resilient. Whatever that may be for you, that may be something you may want to consider for yourself. But I know for me that it is imperative that I have that foundation for me. And that foundation allows me to not rely on what it is that I see, right? That I rely on the higher being that I know exists. And, you know, if you don't have that, then you feel a sense of responsibility to control everything, to make everything happen, to do everything. And I know, because I felt the weight. Even though I was a believer, I felt like I had this pressure on me. And when I did the full surrender to the Lord, woo!
Like a release. You could just
release.
let go.
Let go. It was life changing for me.
Mm.
That I didn't have to come up with the answers, that I didn't have to solve these problems, that I didn't have to, and even more so, that there was a reason that these things were happening. So my perspective shifted. You were a part of a situation that shifted my thinking. In 2003 or 4, before leaving GW,
mm-hmm.
we worked at right? You referred me somewhere and there was a misunderstanding, right? Absolutely. Yep. And it was devastating for me, for someone to think that I would be misrepresenting myself. Mm-hmm. And I remember being on the couch for like 4 days thinking, oh, how could you assume that about me, you know? And right? Because people knew the truth that worked there, so it was confusing to me. Nonetheless, I booked a flight to Barbados. One morning, I went there for 8 days, and I had a conversation with myself. And I said, you know, life is going to continue to happen. Mm-hmm. What's most important is how you respond.
You know, that actually, you know, when we look at the action plan as a whole, and the A is for affirmation, that sounds like it was somewhat of an affirmation to you that, you know, despite life happening, the most important part about it is how you respond to these things.
Absolutely. How I respond to it. It shifted my perspective that things are going to happen that are going to be negative. How I respond to it is going to be important. But the other part about that is that I believe, as a person of faith, that God is orchestrating things. And that these things are to teach me a lesson, or I'm going to grow stronger, or there's something in it for me. Mm-hmm. And so because my faith is so strong, I have been able to reframe those things that have happened to me because I see how the dots are connected.
Yeah, you bring up a good point because it reminds me of the whole concept of post-traumatic growth. You know, that with post-traumatic growth, there's this change and shift in people's spirituality. And that's what I'm hearing for you is that at some point your spirituality shifted and how you look at and how you view faith and what you take from these events and these incidents. Is there anything in particular, like, you know, maybe there's a situation that you can talk about that the people might be able to relate a little bit more to?
The one that I would choose would be the loss of a child. I was told that I could not get pregnant without fertility drugs, and unbeknownst to me, it happened. It happened, and I found out the day before I was leaving to go to Korea, move to Korea. Mm-hmm. And I had not asked the Lord about this relationship, but I knew that we were going to, in my heart, we were going to work it out for a year, a distance, and then get married, get together. And that didn't happen. And I went to Korea with child in womb. 10 days later, I lost the child. And because I know God loves me, and because I know He has a greater plan than I could ever fathom, my words to Him were, Lord, I trust you. Because if you're a person of faith, my faith, which is Christianity, then you understand that things are in order. He does things in order. So could I really say that being pregnant by someone out of wedlock who actually happened to be still legally married but separated, they weren't ever getting back together, so it wasn't cheating technically, but legally married, could I say that that was a blessing? I have to be honest with myself. That is contradictory, right? So being honest with myself, I didn't ask about that relationship. Instead, I moved on my own feelings and likely fear that time was passing me by. And so when I am honest and I thought about it and I reflected, I said, okay, I trust you because I know for certain that you have greater for me, a situation that is in order for me, that is going to come. So it was traumatic, saying that you couldn't get pregnant without this, you get pregnant and 10 days later, you lose the baby in a country by yourself where you don't know anybody.
In those moments, what did you do in terms of coping? And I don't love the word coping, because I think coping is more Band-Aid. But how did you deal with and work through that loss? You know, especially like, let's take the C, for instance, in terms of creativity. Is there something that you did to exercise your creative side to help you work through this?
So overall, I'm a active person, but you're right. When you start to have those stressors in your life, you don't want to do anything, right? And so you don't really realize that your daily routine changes and that you are in a slump, or that you've been in a bed, had the covers over your head, or whatever, that you stopped your exercising or what have you. So I began to write, but the most significant thing, and I don't hate to keep going back to faith, was that I changed my perspective and I started to engage spiritually more. Like before I went to Korea, I wasn't this person that I am today. So this trauma actually catapulted my spiritual life. But I also began to dance.
Come on now.
That's right.
And 5, 6.
That's right. Come on. I began to dance because those endorphins are necessary, right? It's a byproduct of the movement, right? So I began to dance. I began to travel and explore. I get energy from people. So all of those things, because my intellectual side is at play all the time, right? And I need to have the opposite side, the creative side of me. And even just more recently with these traumas that have been happening to me now, I find myself craving the desire to be artistic, to paint, or to get on, you know, the keyboard, or it's just like, I gotta do it. Right. I have to move. I have to dance.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted the people to know the prowess that you possess when it comes to creating songs. Y'all, if you only knew, I will cry every time she records a song. I actually got a special one yesterday for New Year's.
That's right.
Ooh.
Greatest hits coming out near you. Greatest hits coming near you.
Yes. But no, I think it's just a wonderful thing to just call upon that creative side of you. And, you know, I think people might say as they listen to this, well, you're talking to a fellow psychologist, like, you guys know. But what you're saying is, even if you know, like, you still get in those dark spaces. You know, trauma can bring you right there. So you can have all the tools at the ready, but if you're in that space, it's really difficult.
We are not exempt.
I know
Let's
that.
Say it again.
Say it again.
We are not exempt. We too are human. And even though, you know, life, we all live life. So life's challenges has no preference. Life challenges are going to come for everyone. So
no matter what your title, no matter what your background,
no matter what, it's going to come, and you need to be ready. And so for me, I'm armored up with my faith. That's just it. And my husband is a warrior. I mean, my husband is in the game with me, right? And so he serves as a support for me. But even he comes after my faith. So those outlets, I think, are important. I bake. Baking is therapeutic for me also. So I think that people should understand that you have to have balance in your life.
Yep.
And that, you know, you can't stay stuck in woe is me. Like you say, you have to go from mourning to action. You got to move. You can't stay stuck in that spot. So these things have helped me. So my scriptures are my affirmations, or my affirmations, reforming, right? Those are my affirmations, and affirmations where I have to be thinking about shifting that thing. And sometimes you may not have the physicality to do so, but if you start to say those things, then you can. Like, I can do all things through Christ. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. So I know that those things are true, and despite what I see or maybe going through.
Yeah. I'm shifting it's actually not a big shift, because it's part of your process